Okay, welcome everybody. So tonight we are going to have Teresa Harding talk about some things that she's learned in her vast experience over the last couple of years. Okay, I'm getting a little pop up. Okay, so Teresa Harding is a presidential diamond and U.S. founder. She's been doing Doterra for pretty much from the beginning, before they had marketing materials, before they even had oils. So she's really gone through the process of developing a lot of good things that work really well, seeing what has worked, what hasn't. She has a lot of experience. We know her personally. She's truly an amazing person. And I'm so excited to have her. Her time's really precious, and to be able to have her come present for us is awesome. So I'm really excited for that. So I'm going to turn the time over to her, and we'll go ahead and get started.
Thank you so much, Richard. It's really fun for me to get to work with you guys because Richard and Jen are one of my qualifying legs, and we were good friends even before Doterra. And so it's been really fun to build Doterra with them and grow together. And these guys are amazing leaders. So we don't get to talk as often anymore because they're so busy and independent and they know what they're doing. And so good job getting this together. So it's fun to do training with you guys because we don't do it together very often anymore. So thanks so much. And if you ever get a chance to hear Richard or Jen Oldham present or train, you want to take advantage of that because these guys know what they're doing. They are some of the fastest builders I've seen. When they decide to start a new leg, they know exactly what to do. So I'm especially excited about this training that we're doing tonight. And it's about how to close a class. Part of the reason I'm excited about this is because this is the scary part for a lot of people. People are afraid to push their friends or make them feel pressured, or even people that they don't know. When you're teaching a class, the last thing you want someone to feel is to feel like you're trying to sell them something, like you're trying to get them to buy something. And so I'm really excited to teach you this close method because it doesn't feel pressure at all. And the other reason is because I've had a couple of experiences lately where we were in groups with really high-ranking leaders in Doterra, and we were asked to be on a committee, and Doterra was, some of the corporate people were asking us, so what's your close rate at the classes? Because they had invited us to come. They wanted us to give input on some of the videos and the tools that Doterra is trying to create for the field, and they wanted our input. And this is one of the questions that came up is, what is your close rate at the class? And everyone in the class, in the committee, we all just sort of were answering at the same time, and we all said, oh, 90% or more. And some people said 95, so we all kind of responded the same. And then, which didn't surprise me, I just figured that's the way it is for everyone who has had experience. And so at the beginning, of course, you don't have that high of a close rate. You get better and better as you go. But then the next question they asked was, so is that the close rate the night of the class, or is that after you do follow-up with people? And so we all, again, sort of responded at the same time. And I said, oh, yeah, that's the night of the class. And everyone else in the room was responding, oh, no, no. The night of the class, it's about 50%. And after that, we do follow-up, and then it gets to be more. And it gets to be over 90%, close to 100. And so as we talked more about that, and they were asking me, okay, so what is it that you're saying? What is it that you're doing? I realized that this is a training that I need to be teaching, and this is not all coming from me. This is actually a lot of the different, some of it's from me, some of it is things that I came up with or phrases that I came up with. Some of it are pieces from the people in that room. I've heard them say something brilliant, and I think, oh my goodness, that is perfect. That will work every single time. Some of it comes from experience. How many of you have been teaching a class and you say something in the class and then you think, oh, that did not go over well, I'm never saying that again? Or other times you say something and it goes over so well that you do it again and again and you realize, wow, that works every single time. So that is what this comes from. It comes from experience. You'll notice some of the things that I'll say are little quotes or phrases that have been around from the beginning of Doterra that Peggy Smith coined the phrase, or maybe Elise Chedevy or Natalie Goddard. It's coming from different people. It might be from Jen and Richard Oldham. So I want you to know that this is a conglomerate of what all these leaders have done, and I just think that's one of my skills. One of the things I'm really good at is taking the pieces and putting them together, recognizing what will work for everyone. Because there are some things I can say in a close because I can get really excited, or I might have a certain relationship with someone, or I can get all hyper, and then I can get away with certain kinds of statements or comments that make it exciting and fun, but it wouldn't work for everyone. It might not work for every buyer. It might not work for every distributor who's doing a class. So this close is a close that works for every single person. I don't care how quiet and reserved you are. I don't care how outgoing you are. And I've been really excited because I've only been teaching it for the last several weeks. Europe had actually asked me to teach them, so I taught Europe, and we started to get an amazing response from it. And I've had a couple of leaders who are diamond and above, well, more than a couple. I've had several responses coming into my texts and my emails with people telling me their responses, and they're so excited about the results. So I'll share 2 of those with you, and then we will get started, and I'll show you how this goes, okay? One person, I won't share names just because I hadn't asked their permission, but one person had sent me a text just in the last week or so, and she said, I am so excited. She had just learned the training the night before, and she said, I just did a class last night, and she said, I had 100% close rate using the techniques that you showed me and doing it the way you taught me. She said 100%. She indicated that that isn't the way it has been happening in the past. And then another person a couple weeks ago, she texted me something, and she's quick. She's a builder who is moving very fast and is diamond and now moving on to blue diamond. And she actually heard this the first time when I was teaching on a Diamond Club boot camp call, and she was in Diamond Club. And she texted me and said, Teresa, I cannot believe that. She said, I was in the airport when I was listening to the call, and she said, I could not write fast enough. I was trying to write everything you said. She said, I immediately made all of my leaders get on and listen to that. And she said, my close rate was over 90% after I started doing that. She said that was with follow-up, but I also know that as she learns it better and perfects it, that her close rate will become 90% the night of. And that is what happens. Now, let me make it very clear. You need to make sure the class, I'm talking about a regular essential oils class, whatever the topic is, whatever class you like to teach, that's fine, it doesn't matter. But it has to be about an hour long. Try to make it 45, 50 minutes. Then if you go an hour to an hour and 10, you're okay. But if the class is longer than an hour and 10 minutes, your close rate for the night of the class will start to go down. The longer the class, the lower your close rate the night of. You can still follow up with people, and you know how it is. Everyone loves the oils, right? So they're going to still want them, but you're going to hurt yourself if you make the class too long. And trust me, I try really hard to keep the class an hour, and most of the time I do it. But once in a while, I go too long, and I see the effects, okay? So there are 6 steps to closing the class, all right? And we're going to go through those 6 steps. Number 1 takes the longest to teach, okay? And it's called assuming the sale. Now, of the 6 steps, 5 of them are things that you do after you're done, at the end of the class, okay? But number 1 is something you do at the beginning of the class. Now, I debated about calling it assuming the sale because assuming the sale sounds so salesy, right? But the reality is this is a legitimate business term. This is a true business skill. And the truth is we do assume the sale. When you're going to talk to a class about the oils, you know by the time you're done that everyone's going to want the oils, right? So we are assuming the sale, but I'm going to teach you how to do it in a way that will help them not feel pressure, but get their mind thinking in a way that they can worry about what oils they want rather than worry about if you're trying to sell them something. Now, I want you to remember that for those of you who are still uncomfortable with this title, I want you to remember that this is kind of what we think of when we think of a sale, right? This is what a sale looks like in normal business. But in doTERRA, a sale is completely different. This is what a sale looks like in doTERRA. So when we're talking about assuming a sale, I don't want you to fret over that term. I don't want you to worry about how we say that we're assuming the sale. I want you to realize that this is what we're talking about, okay? So first, each of the 6 steps, I'm going to show you what you need to do, and then I'm going to share with you some key phrases. If it says key phrase, it's because it matters that you say it exactly like that. Now, it's not, again, that I think I'm so brilliant or that other people don't have a good way to say it. If your close rate is over 90% the night of the class, then you keep doing what you're doing. This is for people who aren't having that success rate. I'm saying try this. Try it and perfect it. And then you can make whatever changes you want, because then you're having success. Then you can try different things and see what works better or not, right? Okay, so first of all, each person starts with 5 handouts. Now, I've tried to do it with less, and it does not work the same. Okay, and I'm going to tell you what the 5 handouts are, and don't worry if they're handouts you don't have, because we're going to make them available to you. Okay, the first handout is called the family, I call it the Family Physician Handout. Okay, it's basically like the A to Z guide, only it's just on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, just in little type. Okay, the reason I use that for the class is because, well, let me back up for a minute. I absolutely use the A to Z guide for a million things. I always have them in stock, and I use them if somebody buys oils and they don't have the book yet, or they can't afford the book yet. I give them an A to Z guide. I do not use the A to Z guide to hand out to every person in a class. The reason I don't is because I found that I lose builders that way. As I see people who come to a couple of classes, they come to 2 or 3 classes, and they start making little comments like, oh, I can't afford to do this business. And so this is something that keeps it really cheap, allows everyone to do it, all right? It's called the Family Physician Handout. It's front and back. It's just 1 page. So rather than $1.50 per person in the class, it is about 10 cents, all right? It's not pretty. It's just black and white. And it also is not intimidating to the people who come. So they see it, and you'll see how I use that in just a minute, okay? The second handout is, and they have to be in this order. This is a very psychological thing, okay? Because imagine if in the front of your stack of 5 handouts is the enrollment form. You can imagine the attitude that creates. Then people feel like all they care about is they want me to sign up. Okay, so first is the Family Physician Handout. Second is it's called Products Made Simple. Okay, it's a tear pad, and in fact, I'll go forward for just a minute. These are the 5 handouts. The Products Made Simple is a tear pad, $9.99. You can get it from myoilbusiness.com. Now, if this is the sheet that is the class that you are going to teach. So if you are going to teach a different class, for example, if you want to teach Reinventing Healthcare or a cleaning class, whatever class you want to teach, that's fine. You put that handout in spot number 2, okay? The third sheet is the product order form, which you can print from your back office. The fourth handout in this stack is Membership Made Simple, okay? It's $9.99. Again, you can get it from myoilbusiness.com. It is on the front and back, it's pictures of the different enrollment kits that doTERRA has. It's color, and it's beautiful. Now, I've found that we have better sales, and people can understand it better. They make decisions quicker when they can see the pictures. They like to be able to see the pictures. It makes all the difference, okay? And by the way, each of these tear pads have 50 sheets on them, okay? And then number 5 is the Wellness Advocate Enrollment Form. So where they sign up, that's number 5, okay? Now let's go back for just a minute, and I want to tell you what happens. You're going to explain the first 3 handouts at the beginning of the class. You're not going to explain the last 2, and I'm going to show you how that's done in just a minute. And then you are going to implement, assuming the sale, you're going to implement that throughout the class, okay? And I'll show you how that works. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hold up this stack of handouts. Now, when everyone walks in the room, you give them the stack of 5 handouts, okay? Pardon me. So they all have it on their lap, and it's in that order. Now, when I stand up to teach, I hold it up, and I show them the first. I've got all 5 in my hand. I hold it up. I say, I want to show you. I say, welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming. I say, I want to show you what you have in your hand right now. You all have a packet. Let me show you what this is. And then I show them the first. They see the first one. I say, this is called the Family Physician Handout. I say, this is just a list of the different ailments and the oils that you can use for those ailments. Now, side note, I want you to keep in mind that you've got skeptical people in the room, right? And normally you can't, at the beginning of the class, you can't just start off saying, hey, these oils really work. You have to establish that as you teach, right? The beauty of the way you're going to describe these handouts establishes the credibility of the oils already without it feeling like you're pushing it on them. So you notice I say, this is a list of a lot of the ailments and the oils that you use for those ailments. But now, I'm gonna explain one more thing about the handout. I say, but I want you to notice that on this handout, you'll find minor ailments like asthma or arthritis or things like that. But your major ailments like diabetes or lupus or even cancer, those are not going to be on this sheet. Those will be in the book, and we'll talk about that later. Now, do you see what I've just done? I do that on purpose because I have just established that these essential oils work not only for minor issues, but also for serious ailments. And you notice I listed 2 or 3 minor ailments, and I listed 2 or 3 major ones. And I'm not making, so instead of saying, hey, these work for cancer, I didn't have to do that. I'm just explaining the sheet. And so I show them that. And what happens is, because I'm not pushing it on them, you can just see in the room that half the class is already going, oh, there are oils that work for lupus? And sometimes they'll even ask that. And I say, yes, and we'll talk more about that in the class. Okay, because I'm acting like right now we're just talking about this. And it's amazing what that does. Okay, and I say, the reason I like you to have this handout is because not everybody has a book yet. Did you notice I'm assuming the sale? I say not everybody has a book yet, and so you can't always look up which ailments go with which oils, and you might have questions about it. This way you can, throughout the class, you can just kind of look through it, and it'll help you, look some things up on your own, okay? And then I put that one down to the side. I say, now this second handout is, I don't say it's called Products Made Simple. They don't care about that. I just say the second handout is a summary of what we're going to be covering tonight. It's hard to remember everything we learn, and so I want you to be able to have this so you can take it home. It helps you remember some of the things that we talked about, okay? Then I put that one to the side, and now this, watch, as I talk about number 3, I want you to listen. This is where I assume the sale a lot, and I want you to see how I do it, and it doesn't feel pressure at all. And I say, this third sheet that you have is the price list. Notice again, I didn't say the title. They don't care about the title. Don't busy up your class with things that are not relevant to them, okay? I say this third list is your price list. There are 2 reasons I like to give you this list. I say, number 1, I can't stand it when I go to a class and they won't tell me the prices until the very end. And it's very interesting because I said that because it was real. But I've noticed that every time I say that in a class, when I say, because I can't stand it, as soon as I say that, everyone in the room is kind of sitting up in their seat. They're like, oh, what can't she stand? What? They're all, because that's strong wording, right? They get all interested. And then when I say, I can't stand it, that when I go to a class and they won't tell me the prices until the very end. And I say it passionately like that. And as soon as I'm done, guess what happens? Half the people in the room are nodding their heads, actually more than half. They're nodding, and they're even nodding vigorously like, yeah, we're on the same page. It's kind of like that, like, yeah, we're on the same team. So already, they're already feeling on my side without, and I didn't do that on purpose trying to play some game. I just really feel that way, so that's what I told them, and guess what? I noticed that it works every time, so of course I say it every time. And I say, now, I want you to notice on here, and I point to the columns. I say, see, there's a list right here of the retail prices. Then you'll see in bold, this column right here is in bold. Now notice how slowly I'm going, and I say it a couple of times, or I point to it. And keep in mind, everything you do where you point to the sheet, your audience is going to be looking down at their sheet and looking back up at yours and trying to find what you're pointing at. So you need to give them time. Your percentage of close will go down if you do not give them time to find whatever you're pointing at throughout the class, okay? So I say, see this column right here, it says retail price, and I wait until they're kind of nodding at me. I say, and then there's a column right here that says wholesale, and I say, see how it's kind of in bold? And they're looking at it, and they look up and down at their sheet, and then they start nodding. And I say, just look at the bold prices, because the wholesale price is the cheapest way to buy it. That's how everybody buys it, whether they want to be a consumer or a builder. And as soon as I say that, they're nodding like, oh, okay. I'm just explaining to them so that they understand the sheets. But what happens is, now they're already thinking, oh, okay, when I buy it, that's how I want to buy it. And you know what? I don't even remember the last time I had someone who wanted to buy retail. I don't even have retail. I don't have preferred members anymore. It's just unbelievable. And there's some things I'll show you at the end that will create more LRPs than you've ever had in your classes. So this is really fun. That's why this is fun for me to teach, okay? So Now, remember, that was the first thing. I said that when I held up the product order form, I said there are two reasons I like to give you this. One is because I can't stand it when they won't tell me the price is right. And the second, I say the second reason I like to give you this is because in my experience, and that's really important, because I say, what's going to happen is you are going to want to do this. Now, all of a sudden, it's pressure. When I say in my experience, then that's nothing on them. It doesn't feel pressure to them. I say the second reason I like to give you this is because in my experience, what I have found is that as I'm teaching the class, as we go through the class and talk about different oils, there are different oils, like you'll find different oils that you're going to be interested in, okay? And it's hard to remember which oils are for ear infections, or maybe you hear one that's about, and I'll give examples just like this. I'll say maybe you'll hear one about asthma, and your son has asthma, and so you want to remember what oil that is. So use this as, you know, as a way to take notes, like take little notes, keep track those oils that you're interested in. So use it kind of as a wish list. So that, I say that every single time, that whole thing. I say use this as a wish list. Now listen to what I do. Number one, I'm assuming the sale already. Now listen to what I do. I'm already helping them plan for what they want to order at the end of the class without making it feel pressure. I say, so just track it on here. If you forget to write some down or whatever, that's okay. At the end of the class, when we're answering questions, we'll help you figure out which oils. And I say, the other thing that's helpful is that the essential oils, you can buy them individually like it is on this sheet, and I kind of point to, you know, I show them the single oils. You can buy it individually like this, but you can also buy them in kits. And when you buy them in kits, they're actually a lot cheaper. You save more money. So what happens is at the end, if you have your list of oils that you're wanting to try, now I say that on purpose. I'm going to go backwards a minute and look at the key phrase. If you have, for those of you who have essential oils you're wanting to try, that's no pressure. And they're thinking, okay, I'm not telling them they will. So I say at the end of the class, if you have essential oils you're wanting to try, then what happens is I can look at your list of oils, and I know which essential oils are in which kits. So I can look at your list and go, oh, well, if those are the oils you want, then you're going to want to buy this kit because it will save you money. So basically, it just helps me to help you get it for the cheapest possible price. Okay, now, I want you to realize as I'm teaching you this, it sounds really long, but when I actually close the class, it takes me about 7 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes to close the entire close at the end. This beginning part probably takes about 5 minutes at the very most, 3 to 5 minutes. Okay, so realize it is really quick. So, okay, so now I've established that, and guess what? The entire room is already kind of thinking, okay, so I'm going to be checking for the oils I want. Now, notice how this says, number 3 says, implement this throughout. You're going to assume the sale throughout the class. And the way you're going to do that is, because you've already established all of that information, now as you go through the class, if someone asks you a question about diabetes, are there essential oils that will help with diabetes? Or are there essential oils that help with asthma? What's the answer? Of course I'm going to say yes. We've seen great results with asthma. In fact, you are going to love the oils that help for asthma. And I might tell her Breathe is a great one for asthma. And, you know, but guess what? I can't go on and on about it. I've got to move on with the class, right? So I might tell her a little bit. And then if they keep asking questions, or even if I just tell her that, I say, so just make a note of that one on your list. And we'll make sure we talk about that, you know, or we'll help you with that, or something like that. You see what I mean? So if anybody who's bringing stuff up, as we go on, I'll just say, yeah, so just mark that on your sheet. So I'm helping them make their list from the very beginning of the class. Okay, so now I say these last 2 sheets that you have in your hand, we're going to cover those later at the end of the class. Okay, so we're not even going to talk about that's it, I'm done. Okay, now we're going to step number 2. Okay, now before we do this, I'm going to tell you this. When you're teaching a class, you can break just about any class down into 3 sections. Okay, there are 3 parts to a class. Number 1 is what essential oils are and the quality of essential oils, or why you need essential oils, right? Whatever you're going to do to establish the class at the beginning. The second part of the class is these are the essential oils that go with these ailments. We're going to talk about the 3 ways that you can use the oils, topically, internally, right? That is the middle section of the class, part 2. And part 3 is what I call the close, or what we're going to show you now. So this part number 2 is right after the second part of the class where you've talked about the 3 ways to use the oils and all the oils, the ailments, what oils to use for which ailments, right? And people tell their stories, whatever. After that part of the class, now you get to step number 2. This is how to buy, okay? Now, this is where people get nervous. Everybody wants the oils, but you don't know what to say. Sometimes it's hard to know what to say. Or you might be having great results, but not over 90%. So you'd like to learn this technique. So let's talk about what we're going to do. This part's really short and quick. First, you're going to talk about how it's similar to Costco. And second, you are going to talk about how to keep the wholesale pricing. That is it. Okay, and I put the wording on here for you so you would have it, because I know what it's like when I'm listening to a class and I hear someone teaching. In fact, I've done this with Richard and Jen before, where they're teaching and they say something and I think, oh, say that again, I got to write it down exactly like you said it. So I've put it in the phrases here for you to make it easier. Okay, so you're going to say, now, for those of you who have essential oils you're wanting to try, okay, so notice that's in here. You're going to use that phrase over and over again, because everyone in the room already wants them. In fact, with that opening that you already did, most of the people already wanted them before you started. But once you talk about the quality and a little bit about the oils and they understand the legitimacy, now everybody wants them. So I say, for those of you who have essential oils you're wanting to try, it's very similar to Costco. There's a $35 enrollment fee, and then you get everything at wholesale price. Okay? Now notice, you guys, those of you who know me and you can hear me talking on this, I generally talk pretty fast. I can talk probably twice as fast as I'm talking now. But notice what I do when there are certain parts I slow down. The way you hear me say it on this webinar is how I say it in the class. If you hear me pause, I pause in the class, okay? And the reason is because some of these things are hard to remember or understand, like when we talk about the loyalty rewards, right? That can be confusing. So there are certain places where I pause to get their attention and to help them listen and hear what I'm going to say. So I'm going to say that again. This part is fast. For those of you who have essential oils you're wanting to try, it's very similar to Costco. Then I pause. There's a $35 enrollment fee, and I pause to let it sink in, and then you get everything at wholesale price. Okay? And we already talked at the beginning about how everybody buys it at wholesale, so they're already thinking that way. Okay? Now, the next thing I'm going to say is this last phrase on here. In order to keep your wholesale pricing, all you have to do is buy one item every year. Now, I paused in the past when I first started doing this. I would pause because I just want to get it clear in their minds, just one item. But then I noticed after the pause, when I said every year, what happened is their shoulders would drop, like they were stressed out, because and I would even hear people say during the pause, I would hear them say every month. Like they know I'm going to say every month. And it's really funny because what happens is when I say, in order to keep your wholesale pricing, all you have to do is buy one item every year. And when I say every year, at least half the people in the room start nodding, or you'll hear people say, oh, I could do that, because they're expecting it to be worse. And when you say the year, then now they're all excited. Oh, that's easy. And it's so funny. You watch. It'll happen every single time. Okay? So that's step number 2. Super simple, quick. Number 3, now you're going to talk about loyalty rewards. Okay? Now, let me tell you this. I have heard people explain loyalty rewards in very, very confusing ways. Okay? So, and I'm sure you guys have too. I used to teach it confusing. But the more experience you have, the better you get at teaching it, right? And so now I've come up with a way of explaining loyalty rewards that is very simple, very quick to explain, and very clear. Now, I've heard people explain it where every statement they make is totally accurate, but by the time they're done, I'm confused about loyalty rewards. Okay? And we've all seen that happen, right, in classes. And sometimes that's with the new people, and usually all of us when we were new, we did that too. But I want you to understand something. Look at number 3 on here. If there are lots of questions afterward about loyalty reward, that's your red flag. You are teaching it very confusing. And now when I teach it, I don't even get any questions. I seriously cannot remember the last time I had a question about how loyalty rewards works. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I do it. Number one, keep it clear and simple. I'll show you how. Number two, you're going to vocalize a couple of really obvious things when you're talking about, let's see if my little arrow will pop up. Yeah. So see this square number one where it says months 1 to 3? You are going to vocalize some obvious things when you're talking about this one. Then you're going to go quickly through these, and then when you get to the last square, you're going to talk about you're going to say those obvious statements again. Okay? It makes it so simple and everyone understands it. Okay? So let me show you how that works. Okay? I say, now remember, we just finished about this is how you buy it, and you just, you get it. All you have to do is buy one item every year. Now we move on to this. I say, now, I'm going to show you something you're going to want to know about because it will save you a ton of money. Now, the emphasis can go on going or it can go on want. I'm going to show you something you are going to want to know about. I like it better on going. I seem to get a better response, and for those of you who know me, you know psychology is my background, and I'm real big on that. And I notice what's going on. I'm very sensitive to what happens in a group when I'm teaching, and I know what works and I know what doesn't. So, but I say, now I'm going to show you something you are going to want to know about because it will save you a ton of money. And right away, people are like, ooh, I want to save money. Okay, which is really funny because if they're thinking they want to save money, that means that they would have to buy something, right? And they're already in that frame of mind. So then I say, it's called Loyalty Rewards, and it's very similar to a frequent flyer program. Okay, that frequent flyer program comment, that came from Peggy Smith a long time ago. But what happens is when you say that, automatically it makes a lot of things clear. If you don't say that, they have no idea what loyalty reward program is. If you say it's a lot like a frequent flyer program, then automatically they kind of get it. And now they're on the same page with you a little bit. So I say, it's called the Loyalty Rewards Program. It's kind of like a frequent flyer program, okay? And with Doterra, it's 100 points a month, which is about $100. Now, do you notice how I'm slowing down on that? I do that on purpose because this is hard to understand. So even though I have this memorized, I've done it thousands of times probably, I still slow down every time. I say, it's called the Loyalty Rewards Program. It's very similar to a frequent flyer program. And with Doterra, it's 100 points, which is about equal to $100. Okay, so it depends on what you buy. Now, is this the time right now to go into this whole regaling about which products are which points versus dollars and blah, blah? No. If you go into that right now, you're going to lose them. You have to keep this simple. If someone wants to do loyalty rewards, you'll help them do that when you're signing them up. Okay? You'll help them understand it all, but this is not the place for that. All right? Okay. Then I'm going to say, I say, see this first little box right here, this first little square? Now this is where, now the reason I like to use the sheet, the tear pad that's called Products Made Simple, is because everything I need for the close is on that sheet. It's all there, okay? Now, every class, you're basically teaching some of the same things just in a different way. Like with Reinventing Healthcare, you're still teaching the basic same information, but you're approaching it a little differently, right? So again, you can use any class sheet that you want, but if your sheet does not have the loyalty rewards on it, if it doesn't have the other things I'm going to show you in the close, make sure you have those there for them so that you can give it to them. Now, you would have to hand it out to them at the beginning, because if you try to give it to them right now, it's going to cause a change in atmosphere in the class, and it will ruin it. And if you have to give them extra sheets, now they're going to have 7 or 8 sheets. That's why I like to use Products Made Simple. But I'm sure that as we perfect this close and make sure and more people are using the close, I'm sure we're going to have more of the classes with all the information in the close that you need on the same sheet, right? Because we could certainly do that. Okay, so now I'm going to say, see this little square right here on well, first I show them, see this little purple and gray line across your paper, and I'm showing them on the back of the page, because on the sheet I use, it's on the back of that page, and everyone's looking down and looking up, and they find it. I say, see this first box right here that says months 1 to 3? And I give them time to find it, and they're nodding. And I say, what that means is for the first 3 months that you are doing that 100 points a month, you are going to get 10% back in free product credits. Okay? Now, see these last two key phrases on this slide? Those are the two obvious statements you're going to make when you're talking about this first square and the last square. So let me show you how I say it. I say that means that for every $100 you buy, you are going to get $10 back in free product credits that you can redeem anytime you want. So see how I say it with meaning? I say, now remember, you're already getting 25% off of retail. This is an additional 10%. Okay? Now I'm going to go to the next three squares. So I point to the next square. I say the next 3 months, it goes up to 15%. The next 3 months, 20, then 25, and then after your first year, and I physically, in front of them, I point with my hand and draw a line up and down this line right here. I kind of say, and after your first year, it goes up to 30%. And I say it passionately like that, like it's a big deal, because it is. I say, that means that for every $100 you buy, you are going to get $30 back in free product credits. And I don't repeat the you can redeem anytime you want. Or on that part, sometimes I'll say, and now I've been doing this for a long time, that means every $100 I buy, I am getting $30 back in free product credits. And remember, I'm already getting 25% off of retail. This is an additional 30%. So that's huge. And then that's it. That's how I end it. And now when you hear that, you can start to understand why people understand it and they don't have any questions. And it's really quick. Okay, now we're done with part 3. Step 4, now you're going to talk about the business. Now, a lot of people are so afraid to talk about the business that they don't. It is a huge mistake. And I'll tell you, I know it's hard to talk about it, but I promise you if you do it this way, it ends up being totally fine. It's not pressure at all, and people get very interested, okay? But broaching the subject is a little bit hard, so I'm going to show you how you're going to do that, all right? So I say, now, first let's go through this. First, you're going to tell them you're going to talk about the business. Then you are going to tell them how long you will talk about the business. Be simple and clear, and I want you to carefully listen. I'm going to use the words share and want. And notice what a difference that makes. You'll see what I mean, and I'll point it out to you when I get to that part. And then you're going to show them the last 2 handouts, okay? So let me show you what I say. And I wrote this out because it is so important that you say it like this or it can come across pushy. So if you want to take a picture of your screen or whatever you want to do, I would do that. I say, now, before we end, I want to talk to you for just a minute about the business. I take just 2. Now, as soon as you say that, you know what's going to happen. There are people in the room, their shoulders slumped, they're going, oh, great, here we go. How long is this going to take, right? We know that that's kind of the reaction. This is the only time in the whole class where you'll get a reaction where you might be a little bit nervous. But trust me on this, okay? So I say, before we end, I want to talk to you for a minute about the business. And then now I get a little more animated on purpose because they're worried. I say, now, I take just 2 minutes on this, and I hold up my 2 fingers. I say, I just take 2 minutes on this, and I really do take 2 minutes. So you see how I repeat myself? Because what happens is when I say I take just 2 minutes on this, I used to not repeat myself, but I would say that, and most of the class would relax and go, oh, okay. And then you can sense the attitude in the room is, okay, I can, I'll listen for a couple minutes. That's fine. But when I repeat myself and I say, and I really do take 2 minutes, it is amazing what happens. The rest of the room, and even the people that kind of trusted you a little bit, now they go, okay. Everybody relaxes and they're totally fine. Now, once in a while, you'll have someone in the room and you can just tell they are attitude person, okay? And that would have been me. So I completely understand that. And so I can tell even after I repeat myself and say, and I really do take 2 minutes, they're still kind of attitude. They're going, yeah, right. Yeah, you say 2 minutes, but how long are you really going to take? Now, if that happens, if I sense any of that in the room at all, then I point to someone who has a positive attitude. I never point to the person that's skeptical, right? I point to someone who I can tell is totally fine with me taking 2 minutes on the business, I'll point to him and I'll say, so I'll say how I say, time me. Now let me say how it sounds, okay? I say, I take just 2 minutes on this, and I really do take 2 minutes. And then I kind of look around the room and I point at someone. I say, time me, okay? And I lift my eyebrows, I get excited, and all of a sudden the whole attitude in the room, it's almost like they feel like it's a game. And you see a few people look at their watches like, okay, we're going to time you and see. Now, I really do take 2 minutes. So if you say you're going to take 2 minutes, take 2 minutes, and you better be done in 2 minutes. Now, this is also why it's really important that you do these steps in this order, because imagine if you haven't talked about the loyalty rewards yet. You would have to talk about it right now, and that cuts into your business time. But because you've already talked about it and it's very clear, now you can explain the business, and they already understand about the 100 points a month. So it's huge, okay? So then I say, now I know this isn't a business class, but there are 2 reasons I like to share this with you. First of all, because there are a few of you who are interested in the business. And secondly, because in my experience, what I have found is that as you learn, now notice I am pointing out you, because you know what happens in the class when people are learning about the oils, they're starting to say, what about my grandma's arthritis? What about so-and-so's this or that? They're already thinking of who they can share it with. So that's already happened. So I say, because in my experience, what I have found is that as you learn how to use the essential oils, you will share them. Now, notice I don't say it bossy. I say it caring. I don't say, you will share them. I'm being caring because I know what it's like to know how the essential oils help my niece's seizures. And then it has helped so many people with seizures because I shared that story, okay? So because in my experience, what I have found is that as you learn how to use the essential oils, you will share them. And then I give them a couple of examples, and you can use whatever examples you want, but keep it short. I say, when the oils work for your migraine, what do you think you're going to do when your friend or your sister or your grandma comes to you with a migraine? You're going to say, oh my goodness, you have to try these oils, right? And I kind of make a joke out of it, and they're kind of laughing like, yeah. And I say, so it's helpful for you to understand a little bit about how this works, okay? And so do you see how that goes right into the business, and it's no big deal. Now I've got 2 minutes. In fact, I kind of start my 2 minutes right about when I start this, all right? And by the way, it really does take 2 minutes. This, again, is on the Products Made Simple form, like the tear pad. That's why I like that. You've got to have this, okay? And so what I say is this. I say, see on your sheet where it shows these little tiny people, and it's right in the middle of the page, and I kind of point to it and show them. Then they look for it. I give them time to find it, because if they don't find it and I start explaining it, I'm going to lose them and they will never catch up. So make sure they find it. And now what's really funny is because of that little lecture I gave, this little phrase right here, what happens is they're all going, okay, let's see. And they're all ready to listen about the business. They're not all skeptical and folded arms and sitting back and, oh, brother, this isn't a business class. They're all ready to listen. They're very interested. It's really interesting. It's funny what happens. Okay, so now they're all interested. And I say, see this little green person right here? If this little green person is you, now I want you to notice, this is where I'm going to use the words share and want. If this little green person is you, and you have shared the oils with 3 people who want to do that 100 points a month, did you notice? I said who want to do that 100 points a month. Now you're going to be getting a $50 bonus. That's just it's a bonus on top of the regular paycheck, okay? And once each of these 3 dark blue guys have shared the oils with 3 people each who want to do that 100 points a month, now you are at a $250 bonus, which is awesome because this is now more than covering what you are wanting to buy every month, right? So once each of these 9 people have shared it with 3 people each who want to do that 100 points a month, now you're at $1,500 a month. And that is a significant increase for most households. And that's exactly how I say it. I say it every time. You see how quick that was? And do you see how now all of a sudden they're not feeling pressured. They're putting themselves in that position thinking, oh my goodness, if I do that, now listen to how I end it. I say now, whether you're interested in building the business or not, as you share, now notice I don't say if you share. I say as you share the oils with people and they want to purchase the oils, we help make sure that we structure it the right way for you so that you're the one who gets the benefit. Okay, so it's helpful for you to understand how this works, even if you're not interested in doing the business. And that's how I end that. And people are nodding, and I can't tell you, I have more people coming up to me after the class saying, you know, I might be interested in doing that thing you were talking about. But if you don't bring it up, they don't know what the opportunity is, okay? Now, do you see how that I can do that in less than 2 minutes? So if I have finished this and I still have enough time, then I will go to this part. Oh, I have the key phrases here. I'll leave it there for just a second, okay? If I've used up my 2 minutes, I stop. I am done, okay? But if I haven't, I'm going to share this next part, okay? The next part is, oh, wait a minute. Is it on here? Sorry, I got this backwards. We'll have to go back to that, okay? The next part is this. I say now remember, this is only if I have enough time. If I don't even do this part at all because I am going to keep my promise. I say now, I want you to look at this little green and purple chart on the left side of your page, and I point to it. I say, see right here? And then I wait till they find it, and then I say, now I want you to look at this. See where it says levels, and then it has the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's in the green. So do you see how I explain it out? I've seen people try to teach this, and this is what they'll say. They'll say, see all the levels right here? And then and they don't even explain. Well, they don't know what you're talking about. They're busy trying to find it. They're going, what do you mean the levels? I don't know what that is. You have got to explain it out every time, and I promise it's fast. I say, see this in the green section right here? See where it says levels, and it has the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? Those numbers represent the levels on your team. And I say, so for example, and then I point at this chart. I say, so for example, the dark blue guys would be level 1 on your team. The brown guys would be level 2. The light blue guys would be level 3, and so on, okay? So once I've shown them that, they all get it. They're like, oh, okay, I get it. So now I say, now look at the right side of the chart where it has the dark purple. I say, what this is showing you is how much money you would be making every month if that level was full. So if your first level was full with the 3 people, you would be making $59 a month. That's $50, and then I point back at this. I say that $50 is the $50 bonus we talked about, and then you've got a whopping $9. That is the rest of your paycheck. And usually everybody laughs because, of course, that's wimpy. Then I say, now when your second level is full, you're at $300 a month. Now that would be that $250 bonus, and the other $50 of that is the rest of your paycheck, okay? Then when your third level is full, you're at over $1,700 a month. But I only go those 3, and then I bypass the rest, and I say now, look what happens as you fill in those levels. By the time your 7th level is full, you are at over $34,000 a month. And then I say this. Now you have to fit it to your situation, because when I was to the point where I was making more than $34,000 a month, I would say, you know, I've been doing Doterra. I was a stay-at-home mom, and I've been doing Doterra for this long, and I'm beyond the bottom of that chart. Now I say I'm well beyond the bottom of that chart, because I don't want to hype the money either. But if you aren't making that much yet, then just say, in Doterra, people are to the bottom of that chart within X amount of time, and that is average. That's not even, oh, the top people who get there the fastest. So you can change the way you end that depending on where you are, or you can say, you know, I've just started this. I'm working with my upline, and they've only, you know, they were a stay-at-home mom or whatever, and they've only been doing this for 2 years, and they're beyond the bottom of that chart, or whatever the truth really is. Don't make anything up, of course, okay? Oh, so I want to go back to this. So now you're going to explain the last 2 pieces of paper, the handouts, right? Because you're done with that business part, but the last part of this is you're going to show the last 2 pieces. So I say, now those last 2 pieces, those last 2 handouts, let me show you what those are, and I hold them up, and they're looking for theirs. I say this second to the last one. This one is, it's called, no, I don't even tell them what it's called. I just say, this is pictures of the different kits that Doterra has. These are some of the favorite kits that people like the most, okay? And it's easier to see it in a picture, so I like to give you that. And I say this last form, this is the enrollment form, okay? And that's all I say. Now I say what you see here. I say, now, for those of you who have essential oils you're wanting to try, what you'll want to do is to start filling out this form. Now, keep in mind that people want you to tell them what to do. They don't know what to do. If you just say, let's say you're done with the class, you've told them everything, and now you say, thanks so much for coming. If there are oils you want, I can help you, blah, blah, blah. You're going to have to do way more follow-up. They'll still want to enroll, but it's going to take way more time. But if you will tell them what to do right here, people will start signing up right then. Excuse me, by the time I'm done with the class, everyone's saying, okay, where do I start? Where do I fill it out? They're just trying to fill it out. I say, for those of you who have essential oils you're wanting to try, what you'll want to do is start filling out this form. And then I say, now this next section that I'm going to say, it's partly because it distracts them from, I don't want it to be the focus on, okay, fill out the form and now you can enroll, and I don't want it to feel that way. But they do need to know what to do. So I say, you'll want to start filling out this form. And then I say, now see this purple line right here? Because on the enrollment form, there's a purple line. I say it's in the middle right here, and I wait till they all find it. They're looking up and down, right? I say, now what you want to do is fill out everything below this line, and just make sure all the highlighted spots are filled in. And then I say, I say this almost as if I'm doing it as an afterthought to just help them understand. I say, it's almost the exact same information you would fill out if you were going to buy something online. Because what that does is that makes them feel like, oh, okay, okay. Because otherwise they might be nervous about giving their information to you. Now, why do I say it's almost the exact same information? Because we need their social security number, and we also need their birthday. Because they cannot sign if they're not 18 years or older. And the social security number, that's not something that's required online, right? And I will tell you, when I act confident and I just do this, I almost never have anyone ask me about the social security number. But if you have problems with people wanting to give you a social security number, again, that's a red flag. If you keep finding that you have the same problem over and over, that's a red flag that you are doing something that attracts that nervousness from them. You might be wording something a certain way or whatever. That's okay. Don't feel bad about it. Just start listening to the way other people do it and find a better way to teach it, okay? I'll tell you how I do it, and I never have a problem with social security number. I say, if they ask, if someone says, so how come you have to give the social security number? I say this with confidence, because if you don't, if you act apologetic, they're going to be nervous. I say the IRS requires it. That's the first thing I say. I say the IRS requires it of Doterra, because when you are buying the oils at wholesale, you could resell them at retail. Like, you could make money, and the IRS needs to know. So it's required. And it's amazing. Very rarely do I get the question. If I do get it, they're fine with that. Every once in a while, I'll have somebody who absolutely will not give their social security number because they've had their identity stolen, or they're very careful about it, or whatever. Almost never, though, okay? But if that happens, then guess what? Is it time to try to talk them into why it's okay to give their social security? No. They are right. The customer's right. If they say, I don't give my social security number out, I say that's totally fine. I said, then what I try next is I say, what we can do is we can just pull this up on the computer. You can enter everything into the computer. It's a, what do you call it? You guys know the word. It's a, I can't, my mind just went blank. It's a protected site. There's a word for it. But I say it's a protected site, and so you can just enter it in. That way it's not written anywhere. And again, most of the time that takes care of it. So we're lessening the issues, right? But if they say, no, I don't even give it, I say, okay, then you know what? We do have something called a preferred membership, where you don't have to give a social security number. I don't usually teach that in the class because people don't save as much and they don't get as many benefits. But we can totally do that for you. So do you see how, if that's what they want, that's what they get. Because I'm not here to make them feel uncomfortable, okay? So now, oh, sorry, these are a little bit out of order. Okay, just don't forget that people do want to know what to do. They love it when you tell them what to do. And by the time I'm done with the class, people are going, oh, okay. I say start filling out the form, and they find their pens and they start writing. It's funny, the whole class will start filling out the forms, okay? Now I already shared that with you. I'll leave it there for a second so that you can see it. And then we're going to go on to step number 5. Step number 5 is one of the most important steps, okay? I know this is almost over, so I'll try to quickly go through this. Step number 5 is what I like to call the recipe, okay? And I want to tell you this. I want you to think for a second. If you wanted to make chocolate chip cookies, but you had never had them and you didn't know what they were, you just kept hearing how awesome they were, and you knew that Angie knows how to make them, that she's really good at making them, and you went to Angie and said, hey, Angie, I want to learn how to make these chocolate chip cookies. I heard they're awesome, but and I heard that you know how to do it. Would you teach me how to make them? You would never, ever say to them or even think, well, you know what? You really can't afford all the ingredients, and I'm worried about you having to buy all those ingredients. So, you know what? And let's say you're talking to her and you say that, and you say, you know what? That's a lot of ingredients. So let's just start with flour and eggs and salt, okay? Let's just start with those. You would never do that. People are coming to you because they trust you and they want you to help them make chocolate chip cookies. They want you to help them make a healthy environment and know how to use the oils. If someone asks you to teach them how to do something, that you would never, ever just tell them some of the ingredients. You would tell all of the ingredients, okay? And the last thing I'll say about this before I show you how to do it is this. Imagine if you were at the grocery store and you piled all the things that you're buying, you put it all up on the little belt. You would never hear the clerk say to you, oh my goodness, you know what, that's a lot of stuff. I don't think you can afford all that. I think you better put some of that stuff back. That you would never do that, right? They would never say that. And honestly, we would be offended if they did, because it's none of their business and they don't know what we can and can't afford. So you need to remember that this is what you are doing when you try to limit what people can buy or what you're trying to teach them to use. Okay? Now I want you to, I'll go back one more time because I want to tell you one last thing. I had someone on my team who is a doctor. He's very good at what he does. He makes a lot of money, and he was doing that. Every class he was doing that. But guess what? I used to do that. I used to do that at the end of my, like when I was working with people, I would say, well, you know what, don't worry about those. Let's just start with frankincense, or let's do this. Because guess what? I'm being so thoughtful. I care about them. But guess what? When I noticed this doctor doing that to his class and saying, you know what, I think that's going to be too much money, so let's just do this. Guess what I thought? I thought, how arrogant. He's all rich and he thinks he decides that what other people can and can't afford. And then I realized, guess what? I'm doing the same thing. But because I was doing it, I thought I was being thoughtful. But when he does it, it's arrogant. Guess what? It's arrogant. It's not our decision, okay? So tell them every oil you would use if it was you. You are not going to add extra oils just to try to upsell. That's not what we do in Doterra. But you tell them everything you would use if it was you or if it was your son. Write down each of their ailments separately, and then you're going to add up the dollar amount of each section separately, and then be silent while they're deciding, okay? It is not your decision. So I'm going to show you how to do that. What you're going to do is when I sit down, as soon as the class is over, I say, okay, so now we're going to go around and help answer any questions you have about the different oils or ailments you might want to know more about. And then I'll point out the people in the class who can help. So if I'm the only one, I say I'll come around and help you. If I've got me and Jennifer Oldham's there and Richard's there, I say, okay, me and Jennifer and Richard, we're going to go around and help answer any questions that you have. So anybody in the room that can help, you're going to have them help, right? Now, when I sit down next to someone, I'm going to say one of two things. I'm going to say, okay, so what are we working on? If I sit down next to someone, I'm going to say, what are we working on? Because I'm going to help them figure it out, right? But if that feels a little too pushy to you because you're not close enough with them, if it's my friend or if it's somebody I feel comfortable with, I'm going to say that. Okay, so what are we working on? And by the way, that came from Elise. If that doesn't feel comfortable because of your relationship with the person or it doesn't come out right for you, then you're going to say, what ailments are you wanting more information on? So you can say either one of those things. You sit down by and say, what ailments are you wanting more information on? And I've got a piece of paper there or a tablet or not a tablet, but like a pad of paper. And when they start telling me, they might say, oh, just, I have stomach problems, and then my son has asthma. And it's interesting. Usually they'll start with one or two, and then as you show that you're caring about them, they start adding more and more. I'm not trying to make them add more. I just want to know whatever they would like help with. And everything they say I'm going to write on the paper, but I'm going to write it, and then I'm going to leave room, several lines underneath, where I can write the oils that go with it. But I'm not going to write the oils yet. First, I want to know all the ailments. So if they say asthma, I'm going to write asthma on the top of the paper. Then to the right, I'm going to write bunions. Then to the right, I'm going to write shoulder pain. And then to the right, I'm going to write stuff. When that line fills up across the sheet, I'm going to leave several lines, and I'm going to start another section across the bottom. Okay? And as soon as we've got all the ailments, because right now I'm just listening. This is not a time for me to show how smart I am. This is me finding out what their issues are. Now I am going to, once they've told me all the ailments, now I'm going to tell them which oils are for each ailment. Now, even if I know all of the oils for every ailment, I am still going to pull out the book and look some of them up so that they can see how to do that. Okay? But for the sake of time, I also need to go kind of fast, right? So if they say asthma, I know I'm going to write breathe, and then I'll write breathe and peppermint. And then beside peppermint, I might write optional or something like that, okay? And if they're asking about depression, I'm going to write balance, serenity, elevation, because I know those. And then I'm going to put anxiety, and then I ask them, now, does this person deal with anxiety too? And if they say yes or no, whatever, if they say yes, I write down vetiver, and in parentheses, I write anxiety, okay? And I'm going to go across like that and fill them all in. Now, do you think they want to know one oil that might possibly help, or do you think they're asking what they need to do? They're asking what they need to do, okay? So that's what you need to tell them. Okay, we'll get to that in 1 second. I'm almost done with this. So then I've put all the list of oils everywhere, and now if I don't have time to help them figure out the prices because I've got to go help someone else, they have the product order form, right? They have the price list. I say, okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to figure out the price for each of these sections. Just add up each of these sections, and I'll be helping other people, and then I'll come back and help you when you're ready. Okay, so now I go help someone else. They're adding up the prices. If I have time and I can't, I'll help them do the prices. And guess what? Under asthma, it might be $45. Under the next column, it might be $256. The next column might be $120. The next column for bunions might be $32. And each of those, you might look at it, and at first when you do this, you are going to freak out. You're going to think, oh, they can't afford all those oils. That's not what you're doing. So don't worry, because it will work out fine. So when they're done figuring out all the prices, then let them talk. This is the silence part. They figure out the prices, and they will say something. You'll be surprised how many times people will say, okay, let's get them. And you kind of want to drop your jaw and go, what? All of them? And so that will happen sometimes. But a lot of times also people will say, they'll say, oh, that's a lot. Or they say, there's no way I can get all those. They'll say something, and that's okay. If you have shown them you care about them as you're going through this, and it's not a time for you to get to talk some more, remember, this is a listen time, okay? If they feel cared about, they'll feel comfortable saying, they'll say, oh, I can't do all that. I say, okay, that's totally no problem. I said, yeah, that's totally no problem. And then this is what I say. I say, okay, so there are a couple of different things we can do. And now I'm going to give them a couple of options. And listen to how this feels. I say you can either start with, because obviously they can do whatever they want, but this gives them a couple of ideas, and it gives them a way to make a decision that helps them, okay? I say, okay, there are a couple of different things we can do. You can either start with one or two. Now notice how I slow down. You can either start with one or two of the ailments that are the most important to you. So, you know, you could start with shoulder pain and the asthma, if whatever's most important to you, or we can just pick one or two of the oils from each of these ailments. And that way you can start working a little bit on all of the issues. And then we can set up your LRP so that each month, and then I'll say, remember that loyalty reward thing we talked about that saves you money? They'll say, yeah. I say, then we can set that up so that each month you can add whatever oils, you know, however much you want to do every month, and we can add the oils that you still need. And you'll be shocked at how many people get on LRP. Now, I'm not trying to force them onto LRP. I really know the oils will help them. I want to help them because I know they're sitting there thinking, I wish I could get all the oils, right? And it's interesting. Now you be silent, and then they will look at the list and they'll choose, and they'll say, you know what? Let's just start with the shoulder pain and the asthma, and then they'll say, a lot of times, then they'll say, and you know what? Let me at least get this one oil for my depression, and we'll see how that goes. But guess what the beauty of what you've just done? Now, if they get balance for their depression, and they don't get perfect results, or it helps a little bit but not a lot, are they now thinking, oh, these oils don't work? Or are they realizing, wow, that helped a little bit, but I didn't get all the oils I need? Now they already know because of the way you addressed it. You taught them properly, and now they know. They're educated, so they realize, okay, I will add those other ones the next time. It is amazing how this works, okay? So now the last step is really quick. It's follow-up, and this will be fast. All you do is you're going to always let them know that you will be calling them and why. So when I'm done helping them and they've picked what oils they want to order, I'm going to tell them, okay, so your order should come by Friday, or I think your order will come, you know, by the middle of next week, or whatever I think will happen. And if you think it will come in 3 days, don't tell them I think it will come in 3 days. Give them 5 days. Say, I think it will come in about 5 days. It should be here by then. Because you don't want them frustrated because they're waiting, right? So say, if it doesn't come by Friday, let me know. But I'm going to give you a call, and I'll make sure your oils came, and then I'll make sure you know how to use them. So you see how I told her I'm going to call, and I told her why I'm going to call. Because when I do that, then when I call, she's not thinking, she keeps calling me. She keeps trying to get me to buy more stuff. That's not it. And when I call, I'm going to care about how they're doing. So how is your son's asthma? Or whatever the issues are. And I'm going to say, okay, you know, we'll talk about that. I say, did you get your oils? Okay, awesome. And then I say, okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to do this. And we start making up a plan. And then I'm going to keep telling them when I'm going to call and why. So after I've told them how to use the oils, then I say, okay, so do that for the next 2 days. And notice how I'm sounding excited, like, okay, we're going to figure this out together. I say, do that for the next couple of days, and then I'm going to call you on like Wednesday or something to find out how it's working. Make sure that we've got this figured out. Because if we need to do something different, we want to know about it right away. So do you see what I'm doing? And that way, every time I call every couple of days, she's not going, why does this person keep calling me? Now she feels cared about, and she feels like, oh, she keeps checking up on me. She's so awesome. Okay? Now, these are a couple of the ideas of how to say that. And I just want to tell you that I've also typed up a sheet that gives all of the details. And in fact, what I did, because you notice on this PowerPoint, it tells most of the key phrases. It tells almost everything I say, but there were some sections where I said whole sections where it's not written down, right? And I realized the value of that, and I know I would want it. So what I've done is I've typed up the entire text of the close, exactly what I've taught you here, so that you can have it. I would recommend that you never just give out the text to people on your team. I would tell them, give them the assignment to come watch the webinar and then give them the text. Don't even tell them there's a text. Because look, guess what would have happened if I told you at the beginning that there was a text? You wouldn't have taken as many notes. You wouldn't have tried to listen as carefully because you would have thought, well, I'll just get it at the end. But you learned better because I didn't tell you that until the very end. Now I've told you that and you're thinking, oh, good, I'm so glad because I missed some of that stuff. So now I'm going to have it. Do you see how that, it's very psychological, it's very important. So I have that for you. I'm excited to give it to you. These are the 6 steps. They are very powerful, and I'm so excited because of the responses I keep getting. So it is exciting for me to hear how it's working. And I've had a lot of teams ask me to do this training for them. So I'm excited to have this recorded. Richard, thanks you and Jen for putting this together and getting it all set up. So now we have this another recorded copy. The copy I did for Europe, some of the sound was a little bit echoey. And so I'm really grateful that we have a copy of, that we can use for people. So thank you so much. Thanks for getting on. Thanks for staying a little bit late with me. I know I went 10 minutes over. So thank you for everything you guys do. You guys, people talk about, oh, the big leaders or your presidential or whatever. But the reality is, without leaders like you guys on our team, we would not be where we are, and it would not be fun. So thanks. I really sincerely mean that. Thanks for everything you do, and thanks for your patience with us as your upline, trying to figure out how to do this and trying to figure out how to be leaders. And so it's fun to figure it out together. Thanks for everything, and good luck. Good luck. Go close those classes.